Oh my goodness. How is everyone doing today? This is TheStormPow, and this is going to be kind of a low energy post commentary. I don't even know what gameplay is going under this. Um, it won't be Pokemon or it might be Mass Effect actually, but it won't be Pokemon or Dragon Ball because I like to talk about those games while I do this, but I don't do too many of these post-com story things, but in fact, it feels really weird doing this right now, but this will be kind of low energy because I literally just got home, and plus my sister is sleeping upstairs, so I'm trying not to bother her. But I don't know. I have a little bit of a story for you guys, I guess, and this might explain why there haven't been videos for maybe a few days because I set some videos up to publish for you guys to go public for everyone over the weekend and into this week, but I wasn't expecting that I would be out of the house for the first 3 days of this week. I'm recording this on Wednesday. I don't know if I'll be able to get it up Wednesday evening. It may be Thursday. Probably will be Thursday, but you never know. But anyway, what happened about this time last week, it was Thursday afternoon, and I was with my dad in town. I went to go get a haircut, and I went to get a consultation to get my wisdom teeth removed later on this fall, which is gonna suck, but I just had a appointment to get that thing all scheduled, but that won't be until October, so that's another story, I guess. But I was out in town that day, and I kind of started noticing my stomach was hurting, and I didn't want to complain about it too much. I didn't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. I could have just eaten something back, excuse me, because a few days ago I'd actually went to Olive Garden and ate, and I don't know, I didn't know if something there messed with me. I had some food when we went to go watch fireworks because it was 4th of July weekend and everything, and it still went on into the night. I don't think I had thrown up until Friday morning, and I was absolutely just distraught with pain. I didn't know what to do. I was all over my house. I couldn't leave my bed, which is something really weird for me. I mean, I know I'm a gamer and I'm supposed to be lazy and all, but I'm kind of one of those people that I can't sit for very long. Like, as soon as I'm done recording a long session of gameplay, I get up and I'll just walk around my house. Like, I can't just be bedbound like that. It feels weird to me, and I knew something was up. And the main thing was it was in my abdomen, and it just hurt to get up and walk, and I was like, something is up with this. Like, every single time I would get up, it was a pain, and it really sucked. Like, even sitting up in my bed was just god awful pain, and I didn't know what it was. My parents, of course, didn't want to take me to the hospital. They were saying, oh, we don't want to be those parents that freak out over every little stomach ache. And plus, my mom actually works with a girl whose husband and son or something like that had a little 24-hour stomach bug, and she was like, oh yeah, a little bug's going around, you'll be all right, and the next day probably. If you're not, then let us know. And I was like, okay, that was a reassuring thought. I'll just deal with this, tough it out for a day. Well, it started getting progressively worse, and I started having a fever throughout that Friday, and by Friday night, I was just absolutely miserable. My parents had given me tons of nausea medicine that we had around the house and stuff like that. I couldn't get comfortable enough to sleep for more than about an hour, and I kept waking up dry heaving because I started to wonder if I had pulled a muscle from dry heaving so much, and I was vomiting just profusely. Like, I was absolutely miserable, and that's why I had told Toasty and Omega Pro that I had to call off the Derp Circle that week, which was our podcast, because I told them probably 20 minutes before it was supposed to start, hey guys, I can't make it. I am absolutely miserable right now, but they were actually pretty okay with that, at least it seemed, because I shut my computer off right after I told them, so I guess they were okay with it, because, but yeah, anyway, so what happened after that was, like, stuff really started to go down, though, that night, late into the night, Friday night and Saturday morning, like, around midnight, I think it was actually more like 1 or 2 in the morning, I'd woke up, and I couldn't go back to sleep, and I kind of thought, you know what, whatever, I'm so off my sleeping schedule, I'm just going to sit up and watch some TV, so I sat down in my chair in my room, and popped on my TV, and just started watching TV, and I was kind of, moderately comfortable. I was sitting still, which helped my stomach. It wasn't that good, but I was pretty okay with it, considering some of the other pain that I had been in for the past few days, and so I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, I get the worst, and it was just, oh my god, I started chilling so bad. Like, I mean, it hit me like a fucking brick. All of a sudden, I go from being moderately comfortable to, oh my God, this room has got to be like 20 below 0 Fahrenheit. This is absolutely weird. And I immediately, like, I kind of sat there for just about 2 seconds, and I was like, is this just some weird chill going through me? And then I was like, no. And then so I just rushed into my bed. I put all the covers on me, and I actually had a heating pad with me because my mom had recommended that for my stomach. I had that. I just put it on my chest, and I was lying, doing anything I could to get myself warm, and it wasn't making the slightest bit of difference. And I jumped out of bed really quick and grabbed my cell phone because I honestly didn't feel like my parents would hear me if I yelled because I was so weak at the time that, like, seriously, if I tried to yell, they probably wouldn't hear me downstairs because they were sleeping, but they told me they would have their phones with them if something happened in the night. So I texted them, and I just said, I'm cold. That's all I said, I think, or something along those lines, and they were there in, like, very quickly. I don't know if they were already awake or something, but the phone must have woken them up, and they went straight to my room. You know, they were actually running in there, and I was lying in bed shivering like I was for real, you know. Like, my mom was freaking out. She was telling me, Darren, you know, you've got to calm down. You've got to calm down. You're going to hyperventilate. You're going to pass out. And she like huddled around me trying to get me warm. Wasn't making any difference, so I knew it was something inside me. My dad went downstairs to go get something warm for me to drink. My mom put a blanket over my head, thinking that maybe all my heat was escaping out of my head, and just nothing was working, and she just kept telling me, calm down, and I couldn't, for the life of me, calm down. You know, I was just, like, I was for real freaking out, and my temperature wasn't heating up at all, and then finally, after a few minutes, I was still freaking out. My mom lifted the blanket up, and she saw that my lips were blue, and she was like, you're gonna pass out if you keep doing this. You need to calm down. And I didn't know what was going on. I tried my absolute hardest to calm down, but nothing happened. And so basically my dad came back with some coffee, which is actually what I asked for, even though it was probably not the best thing with my stomach, but whatever. I went ahead and drank some of that, and I had like 2 sips really quick, and it kind of helped calm me down. Ironically enough, coffee helped me calm down, but I was still really cold, and they were like, all right, you need to go, take a really hot bath or something, do whatever you need. And so I went to the bathroom. I got myself a really hot bath. I started lying down in it, and I was still kind of freaking out, but it really kind of did help me. I don't know why the bath and the coffee helped me get so warmed up, but all the blankets and heating pads didn't. But I was still pretty cold, and I was still freaking out. I was still really out of it, and my parents were telling me that I didn't know where I was going, and they apparently opened up the door to the bathroom and threw some like clothes in there. They had told me whenever I get out of the bath or shower to go ahead and get dressed, and they would take me to the hospital. And once I was done, I didn't have any questions. You know, I wasn't gonna argue. I was honestly ready to go to a doctor or something to see what the hell was wrong with me, because clearly something was. And I don't remember a whole lot. This is where, seriously, my memory does get really fuzzy. And I had gotten out of the bath, and I remember I stumbled around for literally like 15 minutes just putting on my underwear. My parents said they could hear me hitting the wall and everything, trying to just get that on, because I try to be independent when I can, and it just really bugged me that I couldn't even put on my own damn pants at this point. You know, like, I didn't know how to react to that. And it was just overall a really bad experience for me. And I guess they didn't want to come in and bug me, because if they did, they'd be like, you need some help. I'd be like, I'd probably snap at them or something. But I was trying to help myself and put those on. And after a few minutes, I guess, this is where my memory goes completely blank. They actually had to tell me about this, and I legitimately don't remember any of this happening. And I've tried to remember after them telling me, but apparently after I got my underwear on, I was sitting on the toilet seat trying to get my sweatpants on, and apparently I had both of my legs in one leg of the sweatpants, if that makes any sense. But I was trying to put both my legs into one little bit of the sweatpants to get ready to go, and apparently I was asleep on the toilet seat with the lid closed, of course. But they said that I must have just passed out there, and then that's when my dad just flat out called 911, and he had an ambulance on its way over here. And I was unconscious at this point. My mom, they must have carried me and taken me to my bed and had me lying down there, because now this is where I woke up and everything looked really weird. Now, what actually happened is my mom woke me up. What I pictured was that my mom woke me up. But what was different was everything, for I don't know what reason at all, everything in my room was laid out like my grandma's house. And that was one thing where my mind goes really weird. And I guess I was going through some serious delirium or whatever. But like the furniture and everything was laid out like my room, but the walls and everything looked like my grandma's house. I don't know what kind of deep psychological meaning that has, but my mom was there and she just says, Darren, you got to get up. And I remember I was absolutely drenched in sweat. And I promise you, this is exactly what I told my mom. I looked her straight in the eyes, and my first words to her after waking up were, I have to shit. I just told her, I have to shit. And she even vouched for me. I didn't know if that was my head telling me that's what I told her, but she said that's exactly what I told her. And I had massive diarrhea that I had. And I remember getting out of the hallway, and then all of a sudden when I left my room, everything looked like my house. But I was drenched in sweat, and when I was on my way to the bathroom, there were like 4 big guys that I did not recognize at all. And I was like, oh, hey, you know, I was trying to be polite and hospitable. I was like, oh, hey, and they were kind of looking at me. They were like, they didn't shake my hand or anything, which was weird because that's what people do around here. But I suddenly forgot the fact that I had to shit. And my dad was, he didn't really say anything, but I kept thinking in the back of my head, these have to be my dad's friends over here for something. I didn't know what they were here for. I didn't know who they were at all. And I don't remember a whole lot of talking, even though I'm pretty sure there was for a minute. But I remember them helping me down the stairs. And of course, they were paramedics and all that, but they were helping me down the stairs. I could barely walk, but I guess they didn't want to pick me up or anything because I could walk. It's just that I was very dazed. And I remember I just kept telling them, oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm so sweaty. Why am I so sweaty? Because I was kind of embarrassed, to be honest. Like, I don't know why I was sweaty. I guess I did have a fever very badly, excuse me. But we got downstairs and got into our hallway, and I sat down on this little bench in our hallway, and they were all around me, and they asked me, you know, do you know where you're at? And I kind of looked, and I was like, my house. And they were like, do you know where at your house? And I was like, my hallway. And they were like, all right, that's good. That's good. Do you know who we are? And I just said, I have no idea. I didn't even try to guess. And they were like, all right, well, we're here to take you to the hospital. And that's when my dad kind of fully explained. He was like, I called an ambulance for you. And right at about that time, the door opened and a stretcher was up at my door. They had to get it up my steps because they didn't want me walking down those, I guess. And they put me on a stretcher, and I fell asleep really quick as soon as I lied down on the stretcher. And I woke up in the hospital. I mean, I woke up in an ambulance that was still parked in my driveway. So I probably slept for like 2 minutes, but nonetheless, I did pass out for a minute. And I woke up, and this big guy, another big guy, was in there, and he just kind of looked at me. The first question he asked me was, son, do you take recreational drugs? And I was like, no, sir. And he's like, don't lie to me, boy. And I'm like, he's getting all like offensive with me. And I'm like, I don't do drugs. And I guess he thought that's why I was passing out and sweating and all that. But he was like, 'cause I'm here to help you, boy. And I'm like, I don't do drugs. And he started hooking some stuff up to me I already had an oxygen thing hooked up to me, I guess because they were worried about me passing out some more. And then they had things hooked up to me to check my blood and to check my pulse. They had a thing hooked up to me to check my blood pressure the whole time and all that stuff. And I didn't know what was going on. This was my first time, you know, blacking out like this, and my first time being in an ambulance. And he asked me again, do you know where you're at? And I was like, I looked out the window and I saw trees and everything, and I was like, are we at my house? And he's like, yeah, we are. We're going to take you to the hospital. And I just kind of said, okay. I really didn't ask that many questions. After a minute, I was like, are my parents still here? And they were like, yeah, they're going to meet you at the hospital. And I was like, okay. And we just kind of sat there, and basically that's the whole climax of the story, was all that. But after about 20 minutes of him asking me questions, I mean, I just woke up shirtless in an ambulance with things hooked up to me. And, you know, I didn't recognize anyone in the ambulance, and I didn't know what was going on. But yeah, I didn't know what was going on. And then basically I was in the hospital, I was lying in there. They they made me do a CAT scan of my head, I guess, because they really did ask me like 20 times if I do drugs. They did a CAT scan of my head at first to see if anything was wrong there. They didn't find anything. So then they did a CAT scan of my abdomen, which really had stopped bothering me that much at that point. I didn't know what that was all about, but they did a CAT scan and they said, you know, you have an appendicitis and it's gonna burst. It's pretty big. So they got me into surgery really quickly thereafter, and this was my first time having a surgery too, so I guess I was really sensitive to all the anesthetics, and I lied down on the little bed. They had me pushed into the ER, and the lady put a little injection in my arm, as I remember, and then she put the little mask over my head. I didn't even hear anyone ask me to count backwards from 10. I must have already been out, but I remember being out. I don't even remember slowly fading out. I just remember being out, and then I woke up in that same room, and I guess it was the same person, but I just saw someone standing there, and I asked them, when's the surgery starting? And they just said, honey, it's already done. And I just said, okay, that's cool, and lied back down. I was out again, and then I woke back up in a room with my parents, and I think my grandparents were there. But yeah, after that, I just had a long recovery thing. I threw up a lot in the hospital, and I've been shitting like crazy with all the antibiotics that they've given me. Like, it does horrors to your stomach. If any of you have ever had surgery or anything like that where you get a lot of antibiotics, you will shit like, oh my god. I've gone like 6 times today, and it's 11:40 in the morning. Like, this is crazy. But anyway, that's basically my story for now. I have a lot of catching up to do now that I'm home. I have a lot of things to upload and render and edit and all that fun stuff. So give me a little bit of time to get caught up on that. I have a little bit of recovery time too, because I'm still incredibly sore in my stomach. I'm better because I did have a little drainage pipe in my stomach for the majority of the time. I actually just got it out like yesterday, and it was literally a pipe lodged all the way across my stomach that was draining the toxins from my appendix bursting, because apparently it burst midway through the surgery. Like, they were for real inside of me, and it burst right in the surgery, for lack of better explanation. And so I had a lot of toxins all over me, which really, they said, hindered my recovery a little bit, but they said I did it pretty well, which I guess makes me a trooper. They didn't even give me a lollipop or anything, but I did have some friends come and visit me while I was in the hospital, which was cool. But it was a bad experience in the hospital, just because there's no such thing as a good hospital experience. I was throwing up throughout the night, but this morning they said I was good enough to go home, and yeah, I'm about to start getting some medicine brought home soon, so I'll probably be asleep for another 2 years after that. But yeah, that's about it for this. This was a really weird life experience for me. My first time being in an ambulance, first time blacking out, first time having my appendix removed. I guess that's not really a first thing. Hopefully that'll only happen once. I'd like to see that scientifically happen twice. But yeah, this was a big experience for me, and I still feel really crazy. I know I sound really weird in this, but that's because I'm tired. I'm still getting over all the medicine and everything. But yeah, I would like to thank you all for watching. Hope you have a nice day, and goodbye.